Alright, so here we are. I show you my face, but for some reason I froze, so I'm not moving. If I start moving, I'll move myself back in. So what I want to talk to you about is practice 2.A, practice A. I'm going to go over 3 questions and 2 word problems. And then after these 5 questions, if you're good, you can move on. You can stop going over it. If you want to do some more with practice A from 2.8, I'm going to create a second video with 3 more questions and 2 more word problems for us to go over. So here we go. And as we do this, follow along, check your work against what I do. Also know that when we do fractions to decimal, there's 2 ways to do it. One is equivalent fractions, and the other is equivalent fractions, and the other is division. And I think I mentioned in class today, in all classes, if not most classes, that I prefer the division. If I had one way to choose to teach it, it would be division only. But it's still a valuable skill to be able to do equivalent fractions. The thing about the division is the division works all the time. The equivalent fractions works most of the times. Okay, so here we are. Number 4, 5/12. Okay, there's nothing I can think of that if I multiply by 12, I'll get 1, 100, 1,000, 10,000. Any of our multiples of 10, or powers of 10, correction. So I'm going to do my division. And my division house gets set up. My numerator goes on the inside. Out of habit, I always start with 3 zeros. And my denominator goes on the outside. Move my decimal point up to the line, and I divide. 12 goes into 5. No. 12 goes into 50. 4 times. 4 times 12. 48. Subtract. I get 2. Bring down to 0. 12 goes into 20 once. 1 times 12 is 12. Subtract. I get an 8. Bring down to 0. Get 80. 12 goes into 80 6 times. 6 times 12 is 72. Subtract. I get an 8. Bring down another 0. Get 80 again. 6 again. 6 times 12 is 72. Subtract. I get 8 again. So I can see that there is definitely a pattern beginning. So this 6 is going to repeat. So we can assume, or we can surmise, that 5/12 is the same as 0.416. And when you write a repeating decimal, use bar notation, and the bar goes only over the part of the fraction that repeats, the decimal that repeats. That's number 4. And then we have number 8, which is 13/30. And again, I can't think of anything that if I multiply by 30, I'm going to get one of our powers of 10. So I'm going to do the division. 13, my 3 zeros again, and then divided by 30. And my decimal point comes straight up to the line. And using this horizontal paper or the vertical lines on my paper, it keeps everything nice and neat. 30 goes into 13. No. 30 goes into 130. Yes, 4 times. I get 120. Subtract, I get 10. Bring down a 0. I get 100. 30 goes into 100. 3 times. 3 times 30 is 90. I subtract, I get 10. I have 100 again. 3 times 30 is 90. Subtract, I get 10. So right now, because my remainder keeps repeating, of 10, I have a repeating decimal. I've established the pattern. I didn't jump to it too early saying, oh, it repeats, when I wasn't sure. So I know it repeats. So we can say 13/30 is the same as 0.43. And again, only over the 3, because that's the part that repeats. Okay. Feel free to pause at any time if you want to look at the work. I am going to move on to number 12, 54/25. And I know 54/25, I know 25 is a factor of one of our powers of 10. It's a factor of 100. So So I can do equivalent fractions. And if I chose, I could do the division. The division will work. And it works all the time. This is a special situation that the equivalent fraction works. So 25 times 4 is 100. So 54 times 4 is, well, distributive property. 4 times 50 is 200. Plus 4 times 4 is 16. So it's 216 hundredths. Okay. Writing that as a decimal. 216 hundredths. Decimal point, tenths, hundredths. My decimal needs to end in the hundredth spot. So I start my 6 here and I work backwards, and my 2 ends up over on this side of the decimal point. So my decimal equivalent for 54 25ths. 54 25ths is the same as 2.16 or 2 and 16 hundredths. Okay. And you might have taken this one and changed that improper fraction to a mixed number of 2 and 16 hundredths, which is exactly what I just said right there, 2 and 16 hundredths. Okay, so those are the 3 problems. Now I'm going to move on to one of the word problems here. This one's a little tricky, a little trickier than I was expecting, but that's okay, we can do it. I'm going to give you go over a quick skill as what you can do. So it says how many pounds heavier is a 8 1/4 pound fish than a 6 7/8 pounds fish. Right here, how many pounds heavier? That tells me I'm subtracting. I subtract the larger weight fish minus the smaller weight fish. So 8 1/4 minus 6 7/8. Okay. Now if I look, I'm going to be subtracting these 2 fractions once I get common denominators. The thing is that 7/8 is much bigger than 1/4. I can't take 7/8 from 1/4. There's 2 ways to do this. One is regrouping, and the other way is, let's change these 2 fractions, because I know 8 1/4 is greater than 6 7/8. So let's change these 2 fractions to improper fractions first. So 4 times 8 is 32, plus 1 is 33 fourths, and 8 times 6 is 48, and 48 plus 7 is 55 eighths. And now I'm subtracting these 2 fractions, 33 fourths minus 55 eighths. They're equivalent to the original 2 fractions, except that they're now improper fractions. Okay, so that equals that, and that equals that. And now we need our common denominator. So 8s are our least common denominator, so we get 55 eighths. And then here we have 4, multiply top and bottom by 2. 8 here, and then 33 times 2 is 66. So I have 66 eighths minus 55 eighths, which is 11 eighths. Now, so the fraction answer to this is the first fish is 11 eighths pounds heavier. And it also asks us to come up with a decimal answer. So, numerator 11 divided by denominator 8. Okay, 8 goes into 11 once. Subtract, 3, bring down my 0. 8 goes into 30 3 times, 24, subtract, I get a 6, bring down a 0. 8 goes into 60 7 times, 56, subtract, get a 4, bring down the last 0, and that's 5. So that's 40, which is 0. So it's, as a fraction, 11 eighths, or 1 3/8 pounds heavier, and as a decimal, it's 1.375 pounds heavier. So we took our fractions, we changed them to improper fractions, because otherwise we'd have to do regrouping. And this is an easier way, it's a faster way to do it without having to worry about regrouping. I can work with the improper fraction of 11/8 as my answer, and then I can change that to a decimal. And the last question says, what is the perimeter of a triangle? Give your answer both as a fraction and a decimal. I'm going to shorten this up. I'm just going to find it as a decimal. So I can cut this video short. So I have 5 and 7/16. Well, we have 7.75 and we have 9.36. And perimeter, so we need this last side so we can add them together. So 5 and 7/16. So it's 5 point something. 5 and, so 7/16. 7 divided by 16. Okay. 16 goes into 7. No, 16 goes into 70. Let's see. Let's try 5. 5 times 16 is 80. Too big. Back it off. 4. 4 times 16. 4 times 10 is 40, plus 4 times 6 is 24. And that's 64. Negative 6. Bring down a 0. Well, 16 went into 64 74 times to get 64. This is less than 64, so we go one less. And we get 48. And 16 goes into 120. Try 7. It's 2. Yep, 112. Subtract. Get 8. Bring down my last 0. And 5. 5 times 16 is 80. Subtract, I get 0. So there's my decimal. So it's 4, 3, 7, 5. The key to adding decimals is that you'll line up your decimal point. I need to add my tenths with my tenths, my hundredths with my hundredths, and my whole numbers with my whole numbers. Okay? Add some zeros on so they all go out to the same place value. That's 5. 0 plus 0 plus 7 is 7. 5 plus 6 is 11, plus 3 is 14. Carry the 1. 7 plus 3 is 10, plus 1 is 11, plus 4 is 15. Carry the 1. 1 and 7 is 8. 8 and 9 is 17. 17 and 5 is 22. So the perimeter of our triangle is 22.5475 meters. Okay. And then I'm going to leave it at this. You can change these two to fractions and then add all your fractions together. We'll save that for another time. So that's the last of the 5 questions I was going to cover in this video.